My life is a life of failure.
I'm to blame. I'm the one you come to if something goes wrong.
5,127, so there were 5,126 failures. But that's what my life is, and it's a disease, and it's something you have to do.
This is the incredible true story of how a poor artist became one of the richest people in the world.
From vacuum cleaners to hair straighteners, Sir James Dyson's journey to billionaire businessman is like no other.
You work for days, years, and even decades trying to get something that does work, and the final solution is most unexpected.
We're going to learn how he did it, what you can learn from it, and if it was even worth it.
The only reason I chose it was that it was 2 syllables, easy to say, Dyson.
I had to do everything by hand because I didn't have any money.
This is the amazing true story of James Dyson.
Day after day, month after month, as it turned out, year after year.
There's little written about Dyson's early life, except for the fact that he was gifted artistically. He would paint from memory the world around him. But when he's 9 years old, his father dies of cancer at just 40. And this is a difficult memory that stays with Dyson the rest of his life. He's writing in his autobiography at over 7 years old about how it affected him to this day. I felt the devastating loss of my dad, his love, his humor, and the things he taught me. I feared a future without him. Ever since, a part of me has been making up for that painfully unjust separation from my father and for the years he lost. Perhaps I had to learn quickly how to make decisions for myself, to be self-reliant and to be willing to take risks. Little could be worse than my father dying when he did.
My father's memorial service was held here, and over there is a plaque to my father, Major Alec Dyson, died in 1956, born in 1913. He fought in the Burmese army. He was a master of Latin.
What we learn about Dyson is that as a teenager, he discovers he has a gift for long-distance running. Dyson was reading everything to do with running that he could get his hands on. And that's when he finds his first mentor, Herb Elliott, from a running magazine. Herb recommended running up and down sand dunes. That had the greatest effect on building leg strength for long-distance running.
But I used to run up and down them for exercise. And I would think nothing of running 10 miles or so. Yes, running taught me about determination, about not giving up, and particularly not giving up when everything seems hopeless. That's the time you must double down, as they say.
So sure enough, you could find Dyson every morning at 6 a.m. running up and down the sand dune near his home. And he writes about how he took great pleasure knowing that he was alone. Everyone else was sleeping, and even when they were training, they ran in circles around the track while he was running the dune. The consistent training shows each event he's winning by a larger and larger margin. But it's interesting, Dyson talks about how it wasn't his desire to win that was fueling him to run, but rather his fear of failure. Dyson, after graduating high school, continues to explore his artistic side by going into a 1-year program for visual art. He learns the theory behind colors and how to draw, both being skills he says he continues to use on a daily basis to this very day. And while he enjoys it, Dyson realizes that what he wants to do is design the world around him, rather than the canvas. So he entered a 4-year program at the Royal College of Art for industrial design. Dyson wants to have his fingerprints on the items and the tools people actually use in their everyday life. And it's at the RCA that Dyson forms some of the most important relationships of his life, with one notable such relationship with his now wife, Deirdre, who he consistently credits as not just being an inspiration to him, but the most important person in how he got to where he is today, thanks to her constant support. And it's in his last year, Dyson encounters a man with the most wonderful workshop. He's an engineer that doesn't just design things, but also prototypes and manufactures his creation. He's using empirical evidence to prove his ideas. He invents things. Dyson spends the last year of school working for Fry, helping design a high-speed landing boat called the Sea Truck. After graduation, he joins Fry full-time to complete the Sea Truck, taking it from idea to production. This is really Dyson's second education. It's hands-on and it's focusing not just on design on its own. Since he's also building and producing his creations, he becomes a well-rounded and practical designer. He jets around the world, learning to be a salesman, selling to the military, construction sites, and fishing operations. With Fry, he sees a whole life cycle of a product from idea to delivery. It's a dream job for Dyson, which makes the next part of the story so strange.
It's the first plastic pneumatic wheel ever made. And I realized I wanted to do something more personal. I wanted to do a product that everybody uses every day in the home.
Dyson leaves Fry to strike out on his own. Surprisingly, Fry understands and even offers to help fund his first venture, the ball barrel. It's named after the giant wheel at the front, which allows you to push it over uneven ground and avoid sinking into soft dirt. It's got a tub that's shaped like a cement truck, which keeps liquids from splashing out, and it's made from a plastic composite that is effectively non-stick. It's an over-engineered wheelbarrow. Dyson and his brother-in-law, who supplies 50% of the capital required to produce the first batch of ball barrels, go into business together, and it seems like a near-instant success. Just like he did with Fry, they go straight to the customer, selling through the newspaper. People want these ball barrels so bad that they're sending him checks and cash in the mail for him to make one and deliver it to them. It's a growing business. This is where Dyson makes his first big misstep. He throws all of his weight behind the growing company, hiring a board of directors, bringing on sales leaders that he doesn't feel good about, and taking on large loans. As the company grew, they drifted further from the customer, selling to wholesalers at half the price. Their margins are nearly non-existent, and the board of directors' plan is to further push expansion of the business, taking on more investment, diluting Dyson to a point where he isn't even one of the majority stakeholders. It's at this time that their sales manager quits and sets up shop in Chicago, selling the exact same product under a different name. The ball barrel company enters a legal battle with him while things spiral more and more out of control each day. But it wasn't all bad. Dyson learned a ton while building the company. Most importantly, the design of the cyclonic vacuum. You see, when making the ball barrel, they had an issue. The powder coating from the painting would float about in the air until it got sucked in this giant fan, pushing it into a filter bag. The issue here is that the filter clogged easily. Every hour, they were stopping production completely so they could remove and clear the filter before continuing. The solution to the problem is a 10-meter tall metal upside down steel cone. It used a neat little process that pulled the air from the top down the cone in smaller and smaller circles, which created enough centrifugal force to collect the powder particles in the air down into a catch basin at the bottom where it could be put back in the sprayer and used again. The issue was they cost over $100,000. So Dyson just makes his own and it works perfectly. No more stoppages in the shop.
And so when I had a family and a home of my own and I bought the most powerful vacuum cleaner you could buy, I was amazed to discover that most of the time it didn't pick up very well.
Ultimately, the worst thing possible happens to Dyson. Since he'd been diluted down with each new round of funding, he's left exposed and the board of directors, along with his brother-in-law, kick him out of the company. The company that only sells one product that he invented and he built from scratch. At the end of the ball barrel experience, I was penniless, again with no job and no income. I had 3 adorable children, a large mortgage to pay, and nothing to show for the past 5 years of toil. I had also lost my inventions. Rather than have the patents for the ball barrel under his name, they had all been in the company. And yet, somehow, through it all, Dyson remains optimistic. The ball barrel cloud did have a silver lining. The idea for a revolutionary vacuum cleaner was already maturing. I had learned from my past mistakes and failures. I struck out on my own. This was a real turning point. It's inspiring to read Dyson's optimism. He's lost everything he worked for, and yet he sees this as a turning point, a new beginning. Dyson's at home after being kicked out of the company, and he gets right back to work, starting by ripping the bag off his Hoover Jr. vacuum cleaner. He attaches a makeshift cone that's essentially a miniaturized version of the one he had built for the shop, but out of cardboard, and, well, it works. Well, to be fair, it functions. He's thrilled, and sets up a shop in the coach house behind his home, and then proceeds to spend the next 4 years developing the first functional cyclonic vacuum cleaner for your home. He's doing it all by himself, by hand, and each day he's able to test just one new thing. I made 5,127 prototypes of my vacuum before I got it right. There were 5,126 failures, but I learned from each one. That's how I came up with a solution. So, I don't mind failure. After the ball barrel fiasco, Dyson learned to keep control over the things that matter, like the patent. but he doesn't have the capital to build the vacuum cleaner himself. He's thinking he has a home run of a product when he approaches Hoover, who's the biggest vacuum producer at the time, with a potential licensing deal for them to produce the Dyson vacuum. But here's the thing. Hoover was making over $500 million a year selling the replaceable bags, and Dyson was coming to them with a vacuum whose main selling point was that it didn't require a bag. Dyson's rejected from nearly every manufacturer for the same reason. It's Amway that steps up to sell direct to consumers and signs a licensing deal with Dyson. But the deal quickly falls apart, and they even sue Dyson to get back the upfront cash they gave for the patenting licensing deal. So Dyson inks a deal with a company out of Tokyo, Japan, to create the G-Force. Ultimately, it's a terrible contract where Dyson gets a set amount of money each year, regardless of how many units they sell, which they sell a ton of. G-Force sells 250,000 vacuums, which, by the way, each one of them in today's dollars costs $7,000. And Dyson, he's getting $60,000 a year for the deal. And to top it all off, Dyson finds out that Amway had kept all the drawings and the plans for the vacuum and was going to market with Dyson's exact patent that they had all the plans for. This is a brutal legal battle that goes on for years. Dyson flying back and forth to London every few weeks to take part in depositions, testifying, negotiating. Amway is just trying to bleed him out, and it's working. Dyson has almost no money, and he's ready to pack it in and just work on a new product. It's really just his wife that keeps him hanging on. So when he's on his way to the airport for another round of depositions, he checks in with his lawyer over the phone at the airport. It's over, James. Amway is settling. Dyson can't believe it. It's all over, and Amway is paying up. 14 years after Dyson tore the bag off his Hoover vacuum cleaner, he's free to design, manufacture, and sell his own vacuum. Now, we know what the Dyson brand has done today. Every bathroom has one of their hand dryers, and they're even a leader in hair care. The Dyson brand continues to innovate. They're thinking about new ways to farm, new ways to design schools, where designers and engineers are all together to be a constant reminder that good design isn't done on its own, or in a vacuum, if you will. Dyson's story is an inspiration and reminder to anyone building a business to be persistent and to continue to see their vision through. Now, if you like this story and want to listen to more stories of some of the world's greatest founders, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.